boxing,
beats and rhymes.
No one
can do it better.
Shall we do it again?
Yeah!
I wasn't going to read it, but I'll read it. The hypocrisy coming from Simon is killing me this morning. He's the first one to call out fighters who talk before fights and then don't back it up. He did it with Anthony Yarde and many others. Simon was desperate for the fight to be a washout so he could sit there all smug afterwards, but I'm afraid the two fighters on the night proved him wrong.
I don't think I've ever called Anthony Yarde out. I'm a big admirer of Anthony Yarde. The only thing I've called him out for is Tundi's absolute nonsense about making fights with Josh Boazzi, because I know the other side of the argument because I was in the discussions.
Jake Paul has been in a series of bad fights. The one against Chavez Jr. gone this Saturday was bad. Tommy Fury, bad. Mike Tyson, bad. But the circus continues. It's not my business to get mad at it, and I don't want to overanalyze it. There's other things I want to talk about. I just don't purchase his pay-per-views. Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn, however, despite what Simon Jordan wants to say that this is nepotism, it's a money grab, why aren't they fighting for belts in their respective natural weights? Conor 147, Chris should probably be at 168. The bottom line is, the pantomime, which included their fathers, on which the pantomime and fight was built upon, and the fight in the ring, in my opinion, justifies why they're going to do it again.
Shall we do it again?
Yeah!
I'm not contradicting myself. In recent weeks, I have said maybe they should have just done the one fight and left it and go on to fight for titles now. And perhaps they should. Conor lost by a couple of rounds, but I don't think there's no doubt that Junior won the fight. But from start to finish, the atmosphere was lit. 62,000 people packed in at White Hart Lane. It was lit.
We on fire tonight.
It was on fire. There were some good fights on the undercard. Brandon Glanton could argue he was hard done by against Chris Billiam-Smith. Will Vidal Riley get an invite back to the party? But Vidal is developing a reputation where he's not the most exciting cruiserweight or fighter period to watch. Now, in my opinion, Lyndon Arthur versus Anthony Yarde was very entertaining. Loved the way Aaron McKenna boxed against Liam Smith. And then the main event. Eddie Hearn, he stuck for it from 2022 when they first tried to make the match with the Sauerlands. Conor popped. Eubank left the Sauerlands. Ben Shalom got in the picture. And they finally got it done in 2025. Now, Boxer and Ben Shalom do not have a contract with Sky. So right now, all the business looks like it's heading towards the zone. With Eubank apparently letting people know he's not contracted to nobody. And anything concerning the fight, report to him. So it looks like Ben Shalom is being frozen out. Eubank was never signed to Boxer. It was a partnership, apparently. Why was Eddie so determined to get this over the line? Well, Eddie was a young boy, seeing the hype when Eddie's dad was promoting Conor and Junior's dad's fights. And, you know, some people tried to correct me and say Frank Warren didn't have nothing to do with the promotion beats. Yes, he did. In the second Nigel Benn, Chris Eubank Sr. fight, Frank Warren and Don King were pivotal for getting Showtime to cover the fight in America, making sure that both Chris and Nigel got a whole lot more than what, the 250,000 they shared for the first fight? Nigel got $1 million for the rematch. Chris got 850,000. And while you might say that's not a lot of money, beats, in the 80s, that buys a house, a good house, and has good change left over for disposable income. 16 million people saw that on terrestrial television. 16 million.
Big number.
Yeah. And it was like trying to catch lightning in a bottle to recapture that. And you have to say, like, Eddie, the main guy, big up Ben Shalom, but Eddie's the main guy, done a great job. When it looked like that fight wasn't going to happen, and people were saying, yo, Eddie, it's time to let it go, I was saying it. Eddie kept going. And getting the Saudis on board helped as well. And why it's happening is the pay-per-view numbers were extremely good. Whatever they were extremely good. Or they wouldn't be a repeat. It's as simple as that. Why do the promoters feed into this casual market? Because Beterbiev and Bivol doesn't happen unless the money people over in Saudi Arabia are bankrolling it. America weren't going to bankroll that fight. And at the same time, they weren't going to outsource the fight to Eddie Hearn or DAZN. It had to be this neutral party worth billions. Why we were able to see that fight twice. They didn't want to put the fight on. They said Bivol was boring. DAZN were willing to bankroll it, but just so DAZN couldn't get the fight, they put it on the back burner. They put it on ice. let's not go round the asses. Bob Arum worked with Muhammad Ali, Marvin Hagler, Sugar Ray Leonard. And in the same year where Jake Paul is doing pay-per-view on DAZN, partnered up with Amanda Serrano to put boxing on Netflix, ESPN refused to renew the Top Rank contract. Refused. HBO out the door. Showtime out the door. Don't know what Bob Arum's doing. The PBC barely broadcast on Amazon Prime. They left the market wide open for the likes of Jake Paul, who arguably is the biggest American promoter. We can split hairs. You may even come up with an argument to say Bob Arum is the biggest promoter in America. Nothing's changed. But what stars does he have now? He doesn't have Oscar. He doesn't have Manny. He doesn't have Muhammad Ali. He doesn't have Sugar Ray Leonard. No Floyd Mayweather. He doesn't have George Foreman. Keyshawn, good fighter. He's not a star. Oscar Valdez, not a star. Navarrete, not a star. Tyson Fury, retired. He might just be sitting it out until his contract runs out with Top Rank. The market has moved on. And right now, if you're talking from the commercial discussion about broadcasting boxing, you cannot do it without the casual audience. You can't do it.
No, baby, I'm not gonna be able to do it.
It's been happening before Floyd fought McGregor, Fury versus Ngannou, AJ versus Ngannou. They're talking about Tank versus Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson. Don't get me wrong, the hardcore boxing fans have to be catered for. But like somebody who I follow on Twitter said, Conor Jr. would be just leaving too much money on the table not to fight. This is the type of fight that doesn't need the Saudis. The first time they were going to make this fight, there was no General Entertainment Authority or involvement before Conor popped. They didn't need it. They were going to sell out the stadium and do big pay-per-view numbers. Now with the Saudis' input, they're getting even more money, but they would have been paid anyway without their involvement.
You paid already.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
Jay, OPETAIA's birthday today. Do you want to?
Yeah, I pinged him a message earlier. I said we're in a good position to do this fight now. So from our side, there's already been talks with His Excellency. We're all agreed with a Ramirez fight. So hopefully Ramirez is a man of his word. Hopefully they can do a deal. And hopefully you see pound for pound one of the best fights in boxing. OPETAIA against Ramirez.
Now, signs are looking promising. But once again, a fight that doesn't happen without the Saudis. It just doesn't happen. Eddie won't be able to give Ramirez the type of purse to risk them 2 belts. For Golden Boy to risk them 2 belts against someone as dangerous as Jai OPETAIA. Zurdo and Jai OPETAIA have the same issues that Beterbiev and Bivol have. Great fighters. Some of the best we have in the sport. But they can't draw. And if you're looking at it from the perspective, let's just take British boxing for example. Sky were able to consistently put on boxing cards from the 90s, let's say up until Eddie Hearn left and Ben Shalom replaced him, because of the Premier League football. That was bringing in a lot of money, subscription revenue. A lot of that audience, after the final whistle, they stuck around to watch the boxing on a Saturday evening. But now, piracy is a big issue. The likes of Sky and TNT are not getting the same ratio of subscription from football. They're not. So right now, the casual audience is very important because the Saudis ain't just going to bankroll fights for the hardcore fans that don't have the commercial value, don't have potential commercial value. They're just not going to do that indefinitely while there's still a market that encompasses casual fans. Either the Premier League or the football are going to fund the boxing, and if that component is no longer there, someone else has to fund it. If we want to see good fights, someone else has to fund it. Because there's a lot of people are rallying against pay-per-view, and I get where you're coming from. But with the expectations that boxers have, because they're going in the ring risking their lives, how do you fund a lot of these fights for the hardcore fans? How? Right now, the Saudis are funding it, and they have a right to expect a return. Even with the Tom and Jerry argument, the performance bonuses, the knockout bonuses are good ideas. And I don't have an issue with them using smaller rings either. Some people don't agree with that because it could disadvantage movers. But it's not like Turkey is telling you to go in there and trade. He's not telling you to change your style. He's just going to make the fighting environment more conducive for the type of fights he thinks will put bums on seats, bump up subscriptions, and purchase pay-per-views. And he's proactive. Zurdo is not as exciting at cruiser as he was at 168. He does a lot more counter-punching right now and could make it an awkward fight for Jai. The last thing we need is a boring fight. We need a good fight The winner goes on to take that last belt, or attempt to take that last belt, from Badu Jack and Noel Gerver, wherever he calls himself now. Ramirez is a clever fighter. Jai can't just go in there gung-ho, swinging, hoping something lands. He can't do that. So he's going to have to work on his counter-punching skills as well. And he does have good counter-punching skills if he chooses to fight that type of fight. There's a lot at stake here. But there's not big money in cruiserweight. They need to produce fire fights. But the more important thing to me is that Gerver or Badu Jack commit to fighting the winner out of Zurdo and Jai. If that fight is happening next. Let's hope Zurdo doesn't go back on his word. I think he's seeing sense. He knows he's not getting that Jake Paul fight next.
Time is running out. Time is running out.
Manchester Arena this Saturday. Jack Catterall, 31 years of age, 30 wins, 13 inside the distance, 2 losses. Takes on HARLEM Eubank, 31 years of age, 21 wins, 9 inside the distance, no losses, no draws. Now, Eddie Hearn said these two are not fighting for big money. It was, in some ways, a random announcement. No one was expecting the fight. But with HARLEM looking to make some noise, looking to crash into the world rankings after his career best performance against Tyrone McKenna, and Jack Catterall looking to establish himself after his lackluster performance against Arnold Barboza. It was a good fight to make. It was an easy fight to make. It's popular amongst the boxing fans in the UK. This is not a crossover fight by any means, but a nice matchup to land in a promoter's lap in terms of domestic fights. HARLEM showed decent speed against Tyrone McKenna. Good hand speed, good foot speed, and decent punch variation. And he must box, use his feet, and out-volume the low-volume Jack Catterall, who needs to up and increase his volume. I believe Jack Catterall will find it hard to break from what he's comfortable doing, and that's counter-punching. If HARLEM lets Jack fight at his own pace and Jack starts landing that southpaw lead, I believe he loses the fight if he tries to play chess, too much chess, with Jack Catterall. But I'm looking forward to it, perhaps leaning towards Jack Catterall.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
So, Brian Norman Sr. and Bill Haney have been going back and forth on social media quite a lot recently, talking up a fight between their sons, Brian Norman Jr., the WBO 147-pound champion, and Devin Haney, former undisputed lightweight champion, and also held one of the light welterweight straps, very briefly. 1 minute the fight was on, then it was off, both talking a lot of smack. And who else but the General Entertainment Authority and Turki Al Sheikh saved the fight. It looked like the cause was all but lost, and now we're hearing they're going to fight in Riyadh. And boxing is relying on the Saudis to put out a lot of fires right now. Devin Haney, 32-0, 15 inside the distance, 26 years of age. He's accomplished quite a lot for a 26-year-old. His opponent, the WBO 147-pound champion, is 28-0 with 22 inside the distance. Classic case, pure boxer versus the puncher. Or would that be boxer, puncher? It's good, you know, like Brian Norman Jr. scoring a lot of KOs recently, regardless the level of opposition. He's doing his thing. The Santillan KO was excellent. It was a fight he wasn't necessarily supposed to win. The two corresponding title defenses, the opposition has been found wanting, but he's delivered the KOs. And when young guys like him, Floyd Schofield Jr. are pulling out KOs like that, it gets people talking, it gets people excited. Like, I see a lot of people writing Devin Haney off saying he's going to get knocked out. Could do. Some of them, however, are letting their hatred for Devin Haney, and you can hear in the way a lot of uploaders talk about Devin, there's this resentment. They're letting that make their pick. And sometimes it's easily done. I'm not critiquing them for it. It's easily done. If you really dislike a fighter for whatever reason, it's hard to not let that influence how you're breaking down the fight and how you're going to predict the winner. But Devin's experience, his ability to win rounds without taking a lot of punishment, Ryan Garcia fight withstanding. We're talking about one of the best boxers in the sport. Now, whether you like his style or not, if you can't compartmentalize the debate, that's your problem. It's not mine, really. I'm not saying he's everybody's cup of tea to watch. I'm not saying that. I give Brian Norman Jr. a puncher's chance, but he's not going to outbox Devin. Not going to outbox him. So it's going to be interesting. But we'll get deeper into the breakdown later on.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
And the ring has people talking. Big Baby Miller already talking smack, talking about, I want that fight after you get through this return fight.
Yeah.
He wants a piece. He's talking about he'll smash you. What do you think when you hear stuff like that?
The only thing he's smashing is burgers. You know, he barely do that well. You know what I mean? And, you know, it's all talk. But if that fight do lands for him, I can't wait for it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So if it do lands for him, then I'll be already paid for his grave burial. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Cause I don't play around with him. If I saw him today, I'll slap the fuck out of him right now. You know what I mean? I ain't playing around with nobody. Deontay Wilder.
Listen to me. It's your boy, Big Baby Miller here. Trying to sleep, getting tagged on a bunch of Deontay would never, ever slap me. Let's get that through your mind. This motherfucker see me, he walk across the street. Now, he will slap bitches around, though. We know that. But I had a long conversation with my old friend, Telly. You know, her fine ass. I understand she didn't want to piss on you, nigga, and you would slap her around a little bit and all that. But you never, ever in your life would ever put hands on me. The best way and your best chances, let's get in that ring. Let's make it happen. Turkey, line his ass up. I'm tired of his ugly ass. You stuttering Alabama duck sauce, trash talking, worse than 10 bags of dog shit. Boy, you is finito. So if you really want to talk that shit, nigga, hop in that ring. You still a bitch.
Now, it would suit Big Baby if Wilder was to abandon his plan to have his second tune-up fight and get goaded into the ring to fight Jarrell Miller. Now, the tune-ups against guys who are incapable of fighting back are going to serve him how at age 40? I don't know. But if this is their plan, they got to see it through. But here's the thing. The receipt is out there. They were going to have 2 tune-up fights and then look for a big fight. If Wilder gets goaded into the ring without following his game plan to get his confidence back, to get his footing back in the game, and get stomped out by Jarrell Miller, don't be talking all that, oh, I wasn't ready. If you're not ready, stick to what you're doing and have your second fight. Looks like Don House could be the main trainer. Let the partnership blood in. Work on the new things you're working on. Get that other fight out the way. And then look at Jarrell Miller, look at AJ, look at what's out there. Jarrell Miller needs the payday. So he's trying to goad Deontay in. And talking about the man's ex-wife, not my style. I don't like it. And the way he was doing it as well, I don't like it. Wilder's ex-wife, I'm not going to while out. It's Wilder's business, it's Wilder's situation to deal with. And she's trying to take Deontay's money that he's worked for through the courts.
That's fucked up.
It is what it is.
That's fucked up.
Miller's had too much significant fights. AJ, Derek Chisora, Fabio Wardley, throw in Jerry Forrest. Whether it's for legal ruckus with Dimitri Salita or him consuming entire pharmacies. He's blown too many fights. I would like to see him and Wilder fight, but I don't know if Wilder should entertain it. Like I say, maybe after his second fight, he should entertain it. It would be a good fight. It would be a very good fight. But we're likely to get into the event and the build-up, and Miller lets everyone down. Is it worth it? And I have to put conditions on this guy. Like, throughout the build-up, you can't talk about Man and Man's mum like you were speaking about AJ's mum or Deontay's wife. You can't do that. You got to leave outside parties alone who've got nothing to do with the event out of what you feel for Wilder. But yeah, if they could eventually get that fight in the ring, that'd be huge. They have to stage that one in America. I don't think that one heads over to Riyadh, but if they're getting paid to fight over there, then that's where it goes. Jarrell made the request to Turkey to make the fight, and he could be the deciding factor whether it happens or not. Now, who wins that fight is the question. I'm not sure if this Wilder can hurt Jarrell to get the win in the fashion he normally gets wins. I'm not sure. Jarrell will be fancying his chances against this version of Wilder. But then again, maybe Wilder would draw some inspiration because he really doesn't like this guy. So that would be the epitome of a grudge match. It really would. As for Wilder slapping up Jarrell Miller, I kind of agree with Miller. I don't see Wilder doing that if you saw him face to face. I just don't see it. Stick to the boxing.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.